There's probably no other aspect of the Nigerian entity that has generated as much concern and interest lately as the country's economy. With oil prices crashing from an all-time high of above $120 per barrel to an all-time low, in a very long time that is, of almost below $30 per barrel within a less than 10-month time frame, Nigerians, especially the leadership, almost got to a point of panic. Indeed, stories have it that the immediate past president had to quickly organize a pilgrimage to Jerusalem, leading a strong team of powerful prayer warriors to go and plead with God to prevent the astronomical fall in the fortunes of oil. At that time, crude oil prices were hovering around $90 per barrel. Today, with frenetic zeal bordering on national scare, every utterance of government and most of private sector revolve around creating a new economy for Nigeria. Welcome to Export Digest. My name is Femi Boyede. Today, we take a look at what it takes to create a new economy for Nigeria and what should be the foundation pillars for that alternative economy. Creating a new economy is in itself a gargantuan task, but not one that is peculiar to Nigeria. Japan, arguably one of the strongest economies in the world today, did not have an economy at the end of the Second World War in 1945. It took the leadership of that country very dedicated creative thinking to recreate the economy of a country ravaged by the incessant bombings and chemical attacks of the war period.
Prior 1978, 81% of people lived in rural communities. The economy had been heavily disrupted by war. The victorious Communist Party installed planned economics. 40 to 30 million people died of famine. In the cities, living standards had increased for over 40 years, and one study noted that the average pay level in the catering sector exceeded wages in higher education. After market reforms in 1978, GDP growth was averaging about 10% a year and had lifted 600 people out of poverty. All Millennium Development Goals had been reached or within reach. With a population at 1.3 billion, China had recently become the second largest economy and is increasingly playing an important and influential role in the global economy. The question is, how has China achieved this economic growth? Well, first, it helps to go back and describe economic growth. Economic growth is best defined as long-term expansion of the productive potential of an economy. Now, this is based on four factors: land, labour, capital, and enterprise. In the short term, economic growth may be influenced by demand-side factors, such as consumer confidence, interest rates, etc. However, in the long run, there needs to be real expansion in the economy's carrying capacity. After China introduced free market mechanisms to much of the country in 1978, it set about reforming agriculture and land policies in the country. China is probably among the most mineral-rich countries in the entire world, but has only partially exploited this advantage. Prior to 1978, land was evenly distributed among the people. After reforms, land was not fully privatized. However, it was granted on the basis of family size and supply of labor and other concerning factors. This, coupled with the profit incentive of the free market and agriculture policy reform, has grown the country's agriculture output by an annual 4.9%. Another part of major reform for the Chinese was utilizing its large labor force. Post-reform, China has spent a lot of money improving transport systems in the country to reduce the immobility of labor. China has also invested heavily in the educational sectors. China has experienced large structural changes as workers move from the rural areas to the urban ones, making a shift from agriculture to a service-based economy. The share of labour working in agriculture fell from 71% to 45%, and the share of urban workers has increased from 24% to 36%, and the government sector labour fell from 78% to 24% of total employment. Although China has invested heavily in capital in the country, capital formation alone accounted for over 65% of pre-reform economic growth. However, post-reform, its accountability for economic growth fell 25%. Meanwhile, productivity accounted for over 42% of New China's growth, an overtake of capital expenditure in the economy as a source of growth. Free market mechanisms introduced provided profit motives for Chinese businessmen, an incentive to be more productive and efficient. Also, the Chinese Development Bank was established in 1994 to provide development-orientated finance for government projects of national priority. Finally, through increase in the country's enterprise, China was able to increase economic growth. Again, through free market mechanisms, profit incentive is offered to those that are willing to take the risk of business. They earn hard currency, pay tax, and create employment. Also, China opens its doors to foreign trade and investment, reaching nearly $100 billion in 1994. This foreign money has built factories in China, created jobs, and led to important transfer of technology. Another benefit to China's open door policy is that it allowed large multinationals to set up and use China as an export platform, creating jobs in the country. All these factors together have allowed China to experience radical growth since 1978 economic reform. Today, it's the world's second largest economy and largest, fastest growing economy.
The making of the Asian tigers, the World Bank report of the exploits of the Asian economy in 1993, is also a reflection and confirmation that economies can be made. Nigeria's economy is certainly makeable, and to us on Export Digest, it is now time to make a new Nigerian economy that is pivoted on non-oil exports.
We're able to get enough produce from West Africa region, most especially from Cotonou, most from Douala, from Accra, from Cote d'Ivoire. We'll go inside now into our facility. We'll be able to see the mangoes from Douala, the pineapples from Douala, the yam from Douala that will send aboard the flight. But because Nigeria will depend mainly on oil, so we are not even looking at that side. We are not looking at that side. It's until recent that people are just coming up and saying, okay, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? I go out, going to all these countries. We tell them, maybe your volume is low. Why are you not sending much this time around? You can imagine going to Cotonou, they send like 40 tons every week. So going there, you tell them 40 tons of pineapples every week on our flight, just only on DHL flight. So we don't know what they do, what they send with Air France or with other airline. But with DHL alone, they send 40 tons every week. So you can imagine maybe they reduce maybe to 30 tons. We go there to tell them, wow, why are you, but the question they will ask is this: what are you sending from your own country? Nothing. Yes, we're not sending anything from Lagos. We're not. So we then sat down, we felt that, okay, something that we need to do something about it. Not because people are not planting, because most of the time when you even go to the markets, you see a lot of produce being rotten. Go to my 12, you see a lot of produce there. Do you understand? So it's not as if we are not doing enough, but just because government is not looking at that particular side of the business, so people are not really exposed to it. So we try as much as possible to bring farmers together. We brought buyers from Europe 3 years ago, brought them to Lagos to meet. Maybe we'll be able to get something out of it. The past Minister of Agriculture was involved too, And he did his best to try as much as possible to ensure that we're able to get something out from Nigeria.
I wish to use this opportunity to call for urgent attention to the solid minerals sector. The scoping study of the sector conducted by NATI revealed that there are abundant solid minerals in commercial quantities across all the states of the Federation. However, the report observed that there is poor synergy between the various government agencies such as the Ministry of Mines and Steel Development, Central Bank of Nigeria, the Nigeria Customs Service, the Nigeria Export Promotion Council, and the Mining Cadastral Office on tracking and keeping records of revenues on exported solid minerals. Despite the fact that gold and barytes are mined across the nation, there are no records of any royalty or similar payments made to this effect.
There is need for us to establish a specialized school like a monotechnic that will focus on the training of manpower specifically for this industry so that it can help to promote the policy of diversification which we have eventually agreed to embrace as a country.
The various contributions we have just watched may actually be projecting the impression that non-oil exports is for the big boys. Export Digest, however, believes that MSMEs drive national economies and could, by creating cottage industries around export activities, provide the needed answer to our economic dilemma. Take, for example, World Trade in corporate gifts and handicrafts. Let us take two practical examples. AT&T, an American company, spends about $2 billion every year to purchase corporate gifts. Their budget is deliberately biased towards helping to reduce unemployment, improving rural industrialization, and ensuring eradication of poverty, especially in developing and least developed countries. This means that as long as we can meet the required standards, Nigerian MSMEs, especially home-based industries, can fight for a fair share of this ready market. Our second example is handicrafts. This is deliberately chosen because it is mostly home-based, does not require a heavy capital outlay, and could, in most cases, emerge out of personal talent or passion. The social media, for example, was awash some time back with the stories and paintings of a relatively unknown Nigerian artist, Olumide Oreshegun, whose artworks are almost alive. Statistics of World Trade in Handicrafts for 2015 indicate that this sector generated over $50 billion, a deliberate strategy for Nigerian sculptors, painters, etc. can definitely fetch a tidy income from that.
Meet Nigeria's new art sensation, Olumide Oreshegun. He calls himself a hyper-realist painter, and you only need to take a glance at his works to understand why. They are stunningly hyper-realistic. You would think they are photographs until you take a very detailed and deliberate look. Here's one very good example. It's an oil painting of a young girl who has just taken a bath with the water bubbles clearly visible and looking very real. Everything about the painting looks very lifelike. It's difficult to believe it's not. How about this one? 5 kids in a riverine community playing in the river with a wooden boat seating next to them. All the elements blending seamlessly to create a hyper-realistic image with a 3D effect. And then this one of another young girl having a shower in what looks like a makeshift jacuzzi. The translucent effect created by the water gives the painting a feel and look of hyper-reality.
I started as an impressionist artist, down to realist artist, now to hyper-realist artist. So it's something is like a project in process. So whenever I want to start anything, I try to let people feel the lifelike of that object, as if they can easily touch it and talk to those are the things that is in my mind whenever I'm trying to work anything. So anytime I do something like that and it doesn't really surprise me, because I've already put down behind me that this is what we're going to achieve. So if I now achieve it, I'm now fulfilled. So if I want to achieve it, I won't stop, I won't sign with the work.
Olumide began painting at a very early age, long before he went to the famous Yaba College of Technology in Lagos to pursue a higher national diploma in fine art. He only set out as a professional artist 8 years ago, but his works hardly give that impression. Water and children are consistent themes in his work. He says there's a reason for it.
Water, for instance, is a very difficult subject to treat and to manipulate with the medium I use. So it's like a challenge. I try to challenge myself to do something that's very difficult. So I believe if I do something, if I can achieve something that is very difficult, it gives me an edge. And also I try to make sure I work with children, because those are the things that I've seen in my surrounding. I play with children a lot, and I realize that if I didn't do something that is my surrounding, it will be difficult for me to approach outside.
In just a few weeks of posting some of his works on Instagram, Olumide now has well over 30,000 followers. The works have been shared several times over, and some people are already describing him as a Leonardo da Vinci of Nigeria.
People comparing my work with Leonardo da Vinci is a good avenue for me, and a plus for me at the same time, because those are the people that we read about while in school, and up to now we are still reading about them. We are still reading about what they achieved. So I'm hoping to have even achieved more than what he has done. So that is where I'm going right now. So I'm not just limiting myself to what Da Vinci have done or what he has achieved. I want to surpass him and more other artists that are in his own contemporary.
It might sound like a tall dream, but Olumide is a very determined artist who continues to push himself to the limit to churn out hyper-realistic paintings from his small studio in this remote corner of Lagos.
Observers believe that the move of the federal government in projecting oil revenue to the tune of 850 billion naira in the 2016 budget, whereas revenue to be generated from non-oil is almost 1.5 trillion naira, underscores the fact that non-oil is the answer to the nation's economic woes. Perhaps the next line of thought should be, how do we develop our people's capacity in non-oil export business? We grew up seeing our women in active cottage industry, from agriculture to arts and crafts. Many graduates have discovered their entrepreneurial capacities either by happenstance or as a passion. Whichever the reason is, this is the time to encourage our teeming populace, both old and young, to strengthen their arms and get ready to make the world the marketplace to showcase Nigerian products and services. This segment is brought to you by the Corporate Affairs Commission, CAC, a trade support institution and sponsorship partner of Export Digest. CAC is the agency that regulates Nigeria's business environment to ensure that it remains conducive. Today, we take a look at another aspect of their operations.
Initially, it was only in Abuja that you can register a company directly. Otherwise, you have to go through our state offices. From there, you send the files physically to us in Abuja, and then when we register, now we send the certificate to them, and they will give you, and that takes time. But now we have decentralized our operations. Apart from Abuja office, Lagos office can do the same thing that we can do here. In Lagos, we have two offices, both Yawa and Alausa. Alausa has now moved to, the Yawa has now moved to Marina. And then we have in the north, we have Kano and in Kaduna. We have in the south again, we have Enugu and we have Port Harcourt. In all these offices, you can start and finish your registration there without having to come to Abuja, and you get the certificates right there. That's one of the achievements. And we are going to, within this year, spread this all over the country. Wherever you go in the offices, you can register there, your company. Initially, it was only business that you can register. But now you can register even companies, limited liability companies in our offices. That's the centralization of our operations, and you can start and finish there. We have initiated a reduction of filing fees. This is in connection with the Ministry of Commerce or Trade. Our fees have been reduced by about 50%. Those who register companies from 2 million to 500 million, they enjoy a reduction of 50% of our filing fees. And those registering from 500 million above, they enjoy 25% reduction. So the fees have been slashed. We now have what we call new company registration portal called CRP. Initially, the one that we had, it has some problems. You cannot use it online. It's only being used internally. But now the one that we have, the new one that we have, is that lawyers and other customers can start business with us from the comfort of their offices. That means anywhere you are, even if you're out of the country, you can assist us and do registration online.
No nation depends on one source of revenue if it hopes to create a sustainable economic development and a future for its citizenry. Countries like Malaysia, India, Singapore and even Kenya have all grown and sustained their respective economies through non-oil exports. Our vision at the Nigerian Export Promotion Council is to promote non-oil exports as the key driver of the Nigerian economy through strategic diversification of the economy from oil to non-oil. NEPC is strategically positioned to do more through our action plan on 13 national strategic export products, Zero Oil Plan, the One State, One Product Initiative, and the Nigeria Diaspora Export Program, which are needed pillars of success in our National Industrial Revolution Plan. Investing non-oil export business and reap bountifully. Export business guarantees a prosperous future through inclusive wealth and job creation. Join hands to make Nigeria one of the top 20 largest economies in the world. Export business, tomorrow's business. For further inquiries, visit our website on www.nepc.gov.ng.
And now to the question of the day. Remember, the first correct entry gets an exclusive prize courtesy Koinonia Ventures Limited. Wow, all too soon. We have to wrap it up again. Thank you so much for being part of Export Digest. We hope you are getting ready to explore the opportunities in export business in Nigeria. As usual, we promise to always ensure that we enlighten and educate you in all ramifications as far as it concerns non-oil exports. You can watch these episodes and others before it on our YouTube channel www.youtube.com/Export Digest. We would also love to hear from you as we work towards making Nigeria a viable exporting nation. You may reach us on all our channels of communication now showing on your screen. Many thanks to our sponsors for their contributions to the development of Export Digest. As I invite you to join us again same time on this same channel next week for another interesting package of Export Digest. I am Femi Boyede, encouraging you to dream export, think export, and get ready to practice export. See you then, and God bless Nigeria.